If you've been telling yourself that you'll start your side business when life calms down, when work gets less busy, when the kids need you less, when you finally have time, I need to show you some math today. Because I believed that story for years, and the math is what finally broke the spell. Here's the short version. You don't need 20 hours a week to build a side business. You need about 7 honest ones. And the word honest is doing a lot of work in that sentence, which is exactly what this episode is about. I'm going to show you my actual numbers. A 52-year-old with a full-time job, teenage twins, and a house on a small island in Sweden. Where my hours actually come from, where yours are probably hiding, and the one mistake that wastes most of the hours people do manage to find. Hi, I'm Jenny, and welcome to the Bold Biz. I help women over 40 build online side businesses without hustle, without burnout, and without trying to be 25 again. If that's you, please hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Okay, let's start with the lie, because it needs to be named before the math will make sense. The lie is that starting a business requires big open stretches of time, whole free days, empty weekends, a quiet season of life. And as long as you believe that, you'll keep waiting for a season that, let's be honest with each other, is never actually going to come. Work doesn't calm down. Kids don't need you less. They just need you differently. Life doesn't clear a runway for you. And here's what makes this lie so sneaky. It sounds humble. It sounds responsible. I just don't have time right now. Sounds like a grown-up assessment of reality. But most of the time, it's not an assessment at all. It's an assumption we've never actually checked. We've never done the math. So let's do the math. And I'll go first. With my real week. I work a full-time job. That's roughly 40 hours plus the edges around it. I have teenage twins, which is its own part-time job with no schedule and no notice period. I have a husband, a home, a dog's worth of household logistics even without having the dog, and a genuine need for sleep that I refuse to negotiate on. Because I've tried building things on 6 hours of sleep and the results were expensive. And inside that completely full life, here's what I can honestly find. About 2 hours on a weekday evening, but not every evening. Realistically, 3 evenings out of 5. And a longer block on the weekend, 3 to 4 hours maybe. Usually one morning while the house is still quiet and the coffee is still fresh. Add that up. 3 weekday evenings at up to 2 hours, that's around 5 or 6 hours, plus 1 weekend block. And I land somewhere between 7 and 9 real hours in a normal week. Some weeks less, that's it. That's the entire empire. Now here's the interesting part, and I want you to try this yourself this week. Because your numbers will be different from mine, but the exercise is the same. For 1 week, just notice where your hours actually go after dinner. Don't change anything, don't judge anything, just notice. Because for most of us, there's an invisible 90 minutes between roughly 8 and 10 in the evening that quietly disappears into a phone or a series we're not even enjoying that much. And I'm not here to tell you to give up your evenings, because rest is real and you've earned it. And I've made a whole video about why rest is a strategy. But when I did this audit myself a few years ago, I found that I wasn't actually resting in those hours. I was numbing. Scrolling isn't rest. It just wears the costume. Real rest would have been better for me. And honestly, so would building something have been. So the first piece of honest math is this. Most women who say they have no time have somewhere between 5 and 10 hidden hours a week. Not free hours, hidden hours. Hours that are currently being spent by default instead of on purpose. Finding them costs nothing except a week of paying attention. But now we get to the part of the math that almost nobody talks about. and it's the part that changed everything for me. Time math is only half the equation. The other half is energy math. Because here's the truth about a full-time job and a family. Not all hours are equal. The hour I have at 9 on a Tuesday night after a full workday and dinner and homework negotiations with 2 teenagers is not the same currency as the hour I have at 8 on a Saturday morning with a fresh cup of coffee and a quiet house. They're both 60 minutes of the clock, but one of them is worth about 3 of the other one. And this is where so many women set themselves up to fail. They plan their side businesses for their worst hours. They decide they'll write their website copy at 9:30 at night. And then when they sit there staring at the screen, feeling stupid and slow, they conclude that they're not cut out for this. You're not slow, my friend. You're depleted. Those are different things. So be kind to yourself. So the second piece of honest math is to match your tasks to your energy, not just your calendar. My weekend morning block, my best energy goes to the work that needs real thinking. Creating, writing, building, deciding. My tired weekday evenings get the shallow tasks, the scheduling, the tidying up, the small administrative bits that don't need my best brain. Same total hours, completely different results. And I'll add one more thing here, because it's become a huge part of my own math. This is exactly where AI earns its place in my week. The tasks that used to eat my precious high energy hours, drafting, repurposing, organizing, AI now does the heavy first lift on, and I'll refine it. I've talked about that in detail in another episode, but for the math today, just know that the 7 hours I find each week now behave more like 12, because I'm not spending them on the parts a tool can do for me. Okay, so you've found your hours, let's say 7 of them, and you've sorted them by energy. Now comes the third piece of honest math. And this is the one I wish someone had shown me 4 years ago, because this is where I personally wasted the most time. It's not how many hours you have, it's what you spend them on. For almost 4 years, I had hours every week for my side business dreams. And I spent them faithfully every week, but I spent them on the wrong things. I spent them researching, watching tutorials, comparing tools, redesigning logos, planning content strategies for businesses that didn't yet exist. I was always busy, and I was never actually building. And here's the brutal math of all of that. 7 hours a week for 4 years is about 1,400 hours. That's what I spent circling. And the business I finally did launch this summer, the one that went from idea to live, that took 1 weekend, somewhere around 15 focused hours. 1,400 hours of preparing versus 15 hours of building. That's the honest math of overthinking, and I am not proud of it. But I'll say it out loud because I know I'm not the only one running those numbers. So what should the hours actually go to? Building means things that exist in the world where a real person can respond to them. A simple offer someone can say yes to. A page someone can visit. A message to a real human asking if they'd want what you're thinking of making or selling. That's building. Everything else, the research, the branding, the endless learning, is preparation. And preparation feels safe, precisely because nothing you do in preparation can be rejected. That's also why it produces nothing. So let's put the whole honest math together. And then I'll tell you what it adds up to over a realistic timeline. 7-ish real hours a week, found by auditing where your evenings actually go. Sorted by energy, so your best hours do the deep work and your tired hours do the shallow work. Multiplied by AI handling the heavy first drafts. And spent overwhelmingly on building real things instead of preparing to build them. On that math, here's an honest timeline. In your first weekend, you can have a real offer live in the world. Within a month, you could have talked to real potential customers and learned more than a year of research would have taught you. Within 3 to 6 months of steady 7-hour weeks, you can have a small business with its first sales, real feedback, and genuine momentum. Not a full income. I won't promise you that. Anyone who promises you that on 7 hours a week is selling something dishonest. But a real, live, growing thing, built entirely inside a full life, without quitting anything, and without becoming someone who answers emails at 5 in the morning. And if you're wondering where to start, specifically with the very first of those hours, that's exactly why I made the Weekend Builder Guide. It's the exact 48-hour plan I used myself from Friday evening to Sunday night, broken into time blocks that assume you have a real life, and it takes you from an idea in your head to a live offer with a real sales page, a working payment link, and your first 5 people contacted. It's $17, and the link is the very first thing in the description below. It exists because the hardest hours of the entire journey are the first 15, the ones where you stop preparing and actually build. The guide makes those hours impossible to overthink because every block tells you exactly what to do next. So here's what I want you to take from today. You are probably not short on time. You're short on honest math. And the moment you actually run your numbers, the audit, the energy sort, the building versus preparing question, the story of I can't because of my job quietly falls apart. Mine did. And I've never been happier to lose an argument with myself. If this episode resonated with you, please hit subscribe and ring the bell. New episodes every Thursday for second chapter women who are ready to build something real without burning out. And if this weekend is your weekend, grab the Weekend Builder Guide, link in the description. Until next time, stay bold, ladies.